Why do so many evangelical Christians in America show such unwavering support for Israel, especially in times of war? From pastors issuing public statements to politicians shaping U.S. foreign policy, evangelicals often stand at the front of the line when it comes to defending Israel. But the real answer isn't just about politics or sympathy, it's about prophecy, the Bible, and even the end of the world. After the October 7th Hamas attacks, more than 90 prominent evangelical pastors signed a public declaration affirming Israel's right and duty to defend itself. Polls show evangelicals are far more likely than other Americans to say Israel's military response is justified. In fact, over one-third of evangelicals believe the U.S. isn't supporting Israel enough. This loyalty shows up in politics too. When President Trump moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, it wasn't for the majority of Americans, most of whom opposed the move. It was for evangelicals who celebrated it as a prophetic milestone. At the heart of evangelical support for Israel is a theological conviction known as Christian Zionism. Many evangelicals believe the Bible clearly teaches that the land of Israel was given to the Jewish people as an inheritance from God Himself. Books like Joshua describe it as an eternal covenant. Genesis 12:3 says God will bless those who bless Israel and curse those who curse Israel. For evangelicals, this isn't just ancient history, it's a present-day political principle. Supporting Israel, they believe, keeps America under God's blessing. But it goes deeper. According to evangelical interpretations of biblical prophecy, especially the book of Revelation, the re-establishment of Israel in 1948 was no coincidence. It was a super sign that God's prophetic clock had started ticking toward the end times. Here's where things get dramatic. Christian Zionists believe that before Jesus can return, Israel must exist as a nation, Jerusalem must be in Jewish hands, and eventually a massive war, Armageddon, will erupt in the Holy Land. Televangelist John Hagee has preached that armies from Russia, Iran, and China will one day march against Israel, only to be destroyed by God. After this bloody battle, Hagee and others say, Jesus will establish His throne in Jerusalem, ruling for 1,000 years of peace. That's why war in the Middle East isn't necessarily a tragedy in their eyes. It's a step closer to prophecy being fulfilled. This is why many evangelical broadcasts after October 7th frame the conflict not just as politics, but as a fulfillment of biblical end-time prophecy. This theology doesn't stay inside the church. It spills directly into U.S. foreign policy. Evangelicals represent about 13% of Americans, but their influence within the Republican Party is massive. Nearly 80% supported Trump in both elections. Politicians like Mike Huckabee and advocacy groups like Christians United for Israel tie theology directly to policy. They reject the term West Bank, instead calling it Judea and Samaria, the biblical names. For them, Israeli settlements aren't controversial, they're fulfillment of prophecy. For evangelicals, the suffering of Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank is not the center of the story. It's part of the stage. They believe these territories, Judea, Samaria, even Gaza, are not just disputed land, but sacred inheritance promised to Israel by God Himself. That's why when Palestinians claim the same land, evangelicals don't see it as a political conflict. They see it as prophecy colliding with resistance. Groups like Hamas are cast as agents of the same ancient hatred that has always sought to erase God's chosen people. To evangelicals, the rockets and riots aren't just violence. They're echoes of a spiritual war that's been raging for centuries. So why do evangelicals love Israel so much, even as Palestinians cry out for freedom and justice? Because to them, the fate of the Holy Land isn't about compromise, it's about destiny. They believe Israel must stand, Jerusalem must remain in Jewish hands, and every clash in Gaza or the West Bank is another marker on the countdown to Armageddon. What do you think? Is this devotion to Israel really about faith, prophecy, or politics? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe for more engaging content.